Hey, how's it going, guys? Today I wanted to share with you some secrets about this new animation for Final Fantasy VII Remake. There are many aspects of it, like trivia and things about the sound design and music and even voice acting, and also Easter eggs that I wanted to point out that maybe by reading the comments some people didn't see. And so yeah, let's get to it. So first of all, I wanted to show you, this is the main timeline where I do the sound design, the sound editing actually. And it's a little bit difficult to show you, but it's a big timeline. If I scroll here, you can see all the sound effects, and this is all the clips that compose the whole parody. But it's a little bit complicated, as you can see. There's a lot of clips everywhere, tiny things that compose all the dialogues, all the sound effects. See, like, it's trying to load everything. But yeah, this is basically where I do the sound design, which is not, I actually think that it's not really that difficult, honestly. Like, it's almost fun. It's the rest that is way more complicated, to be honest. But yeah, this is the software that I use to do the final editing of the sound effects, basically. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to tackle is the hidden mini-games that are in the parody. The first one, I actually anticipated it in the comments, and is finding all the 6 weapons that each of the main characters has. Because in the game you can unlock 6 weapons for each character, and I'm gonna show them on screen right now. Well, I've hidden these weapons in the animation as well. So this kind of minigame is to find all of them inside the animation, okay? But another more interesting minigame is finding all the stamps. Stamp is a little dog that the Shinra Corporation is using to basically give like a more nicer public image of themselves. So it's like this little dog that looks like a soldier. And so what I did in the whole parody, I've hidden a total of 13 of stamps of these this dog. And in fact, this sign right here, it says "Find us," you know. So you can basically, by watching the animation, you can try to find all of them. This is actually one of the 13. So after this sign here, there's 12 more dogs that you need to find. They can appear not only as a sign, but they can appear in various forms. You have to imagine this as like some kind of merchandise, some kind of like a propaganda that Shinra is using. So try to keep your eyes peeled and find all of them, okay? Alright, so now I wanted to talk about music actually, because there's something about the beginning sequence that I wanted to share with you. In this scene right here, you see Cloud riding on the train, right? So something that I really like to do is that every time I do the sound design of something, I try my best to make sure that everything, you know, the sounds, the visuals kind of come together, and every decision is deliberate, you know. I do stuff on purpose to kind of enhance the punchline of what I do. So in this case, you hear the song, the music for this scene, and at some point the logo appears right here. And so I thought it was funny to put like a horn going like wow, you know, kind of like with the Doppler effect, because, you know, it's kind of like, it makes it more comical. But something that I also plan to do is that I made sure to pitch shift this sound of the horn to make it coincide with the ending of the music. Like if you really think about, if you pay attention, the music goes do 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 do, right? So at the last note, instead of going do 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 and just stop it, I made the horn of the train match the same pitch as the song. So as you can hear, let me play it again. See, like it basically coincides with do 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 do. And I mean, this is something that is really kind of subconscious. You know, people maybe don't notice it, but it's actually deliberate because I wanted to kind of enhance the punchline in a way. And by the way, the horn of the train that goes wow is actually present in the song. because the main melody that goes do 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 do, it is a horn, you know, from an orchestra. So I really thought that this was, you know, made sense, and so it really came together in a cohesive way. Another example of this is in this scene right here, where Cloud is walking away from Tifa, and he, not many people notice this, but he's actually singing the battle theme for Final Fantasy X as he's walking away. So the last note of the melody that he's whistling coincides too with a change of the song right after. Like, let me show you, like, see, it goes like do 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 boom, and it kind of introduces the next scene. This kind of stuff is, again, something that is not necessarily something that someone notices, but I just like the idea of kind of timing stuff together in a way that it works better. And I, you know, I like to do this kind of stuff. So another thing that I was actually pleased by, and this was a complete accident, or like a happy accident, is that I wanted to do this Metal Slug reference here. You know, so this is the song from the game Metal Slug, right? I think it's like the first mission song, and it actually sounds very close to the battle theme from Final Fantasy VII. Like there's some similarities to it, so it's just such a happy accident, you know, that this actually happened. So another thing that instead of was deliberate that I decided was when you go to the scene of the newscast right here, the song for Shinra, for the Shinra news, is something that I composed using, you know, orchestral instruments and stuff on, you know, on the computer. And this little motive here is based, it wants to kind of nudge towards the Shinra theme song, you know, from the original game. So let me play for you. It's very subtle, you know, but do 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 do. It's kind of like. So as you can see, I try to kind of nudge stuff to remind of something. It's not like I come up with something completely out of nowhere. I try to tailor stuff in a way that makes sense, you know, that's what I'm trying to say. And one last example that I can give you is there's a pretty clear Easter egg right at the beginning of the Shinra building section here, where you hear some 8-bit music, right? This one. So this is a nod to Mega Man 2, if I'm correct. Or, yeah, it's like the Wily Castle map song, okay? So what I did, basically, I used the same software that they used back in the day to make 8-bit music. I learned how to use the software, which is the same software that actually was used by Jay Kaufman for Shovel Knight. And I learned how to you know, create notes, and I recreated this little song that sounds like Mega Man, but it's made from scratch, because the notes that you hear right here are the one for the Shinra theme. I'm gonna talk about the Easter eggs now, and since we are here, I wanted to show you that on the right of the screen you can see the Mayor is the best, which is a little bit of a meme in the remake. And you can see that if you look at the windows, there's some people appearing and they are removing the the poster. Like, it's like just such a tiny detail, but you can see there's some people right there. They show up and they and they kind of untie the poster, you know. So it's tiny detail, but I thought it was kind of funny. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a rapid fire here, talking about the Easter eggs. Like for example, here you can see the Team Rocket badge from Pokemon, and even here, you know, the reason why I put this is not because it's kind of random, but it's because the Turks from Final Fantasy VII, they are kind of like a Team Rocket because they're kind of like a group of, you know, villains. So I thought it made sense to put the Team Rocket logo here, or like the pin rather. So right here, when Red 13 appears on the bike, you guys might have been like, what the hell? What is this? Well, this bike right here is not just a normal bike, but is a reference to an enemy that you find in the open world of FF7, the original. So as you can see, that it has a face here, in fact. So this bike is not just a random bike, but it's he's not just on a normal bike, but it's an actual enemy from FF7, the original. Speaking of the original FF7, right here, when Sephiroth does this with his mouth, it's because in the PC port of FF7, the original, there was like a glitch where some of the characters opened their mouth out of nowhere, you know, like they kind of glitched out, and this was not present in the original. So I put it here as like a little bit of a nod to the PC port. Again, this is like very obscure stuff, but I just like to put this kind of stuff, you know, in these. In this scene here, you can see that the curtains and the color of the house he's in, they actually remind of something that might be familiar to you. This is actually the Simpsons house. And right after, when you see the Colosseum and Cloud is spit out of the house, this guy right here is actually Johnny. So let's jump now to the Cuphead scene right here that so many of you guys really enjoyed. And I'm so glad, you know, because the guys from 64-bits, they did like a fantastic job, honestly. And so they basically did all of this. I gave just a little bit of an idea of what I wanted, you know, but they come up with all of this, and I was absolutely floored by the quality. It's just absolutely incredible. There was only one thing that maybe some of you guys might not have noticed, so I wanted to point it out, that I was actually my contribution. I was like, okay, so this level is all about the ghosts, you know, because there are these ghosts that are guiding you, you know. So I was like, wait a minute, what if we make some of the ghosts just like in Cuphead? There's a level in a mausoleum where you have to slap the ghosts that are coming at you, you know. So I was like, what if we make Tifa slap the ghosts just like in Cuphead to get the parry, right? So I was like, oh my god, that's fantastic, you know. So I was like, yeah, we definitely should do that, you know. So I kind of designed, I'm gonna show on screen now my little sketch. I was like, okay, we need to do it, you know. So they did it, you know, they animated it, and I thought it was such a neat idea because even the color, you know, is exactly like the one in Cuphead in the mausoleum scene. And once again, I wanted to say thank you to the boys at 64-bits because they really nailed it. And please go to subscribe to them because I love them and I want them to get more subs because they definitely deserve all the love. Okay, so another old school reference here is this little how do you call this? Like a hook, like a thingy that drops from like a crane. This little hook here is I put this here because when you actually exit Midgar in the original game, you can see that kind of thing hanging. So I'm gonna show it on screen right now. As you can see, it's supposed to be the same one, you know. So it's almost like Zack was able to climb on it to reach, you know, the highway, the broken highway. Okay, so this sequence right here, is something that I actually decided to add a little bit later in the production. But as you can see, Cloud is doing some jumps, right? So without giving away stuff from the original game because it might get into spoiler territory, right? But the way that Cloud is jumping from one thing and the other, right there, like hop, hop, the motion he's doing is trying to mimic the original game where he's, you know, when you're in a dungeon, you know, and you're trying to reach certain places, the polygonal Cloud makes a very similar kind of motion. So I'm gonna show it right now from the original, and you can see that it kind of tries to mimic the same kind of like trying to get some you know, rocking back and forth and then jumping. to replicate the same style of animation. So while we're here, actually, I wanted to point out another Easter egg. As you can see right here on the right, there's this actually has like a silly story about it. This is the marker from Dead Space, okay? So the reason why I come up with this was like another happy accident. I was actually playing Trackmania, which is like a driving game. I don't know why sometimes I like to play some driving games for a couple hours. I have this kind of weird habit. But it's this game, you know, it's an old game called Trackmania. And I'm gonna show you on screen right now. There's a structure in the game because I was actually struggling to come up with an Easter egg for this scene. I was like, oh, I want to put an Easter egg, but I don't know what, you know. So I was playing Trackmania and I see this sculpture, you know, and I was like, wait, this reminds me of the marker from Dead Space. And so I was like, oh my god, what if I put it in the parody, you know? So I put the marker from Dead Space here because of this happy accident, you know. Okay, so you might have seen that during the parody there's a couple of moments where you see some kanjis in Japanese. This one right here, it says I have to protect my balls, which is a reference to an episode that it's so funny from South Park, where the main characters, you know, they become anime warriors, and there's this song that says I have to protect my balls, so I wanted to put it here. It's just like a hidden thing, but you know, that episode to me is so influential because it was really funny. So I wanted to kind of put something that reminded to it. Alright, so I'm gonna tell you about one last reference right here. And this is a very cryptic one, honestly. This is the kind of stuff that makes me giggle, that makes only myself giggle. Because, I don't know, when I do Easter eggs, I want to make everything make sense in a way. I have this kind of obsession about them, you know? So I'm gonna try my best to explain to you what I mean here. And it's about the beware these guys are sick. So as you can see right there, for people that play the game, you know that's a Sephiroth clone. You know, it's one of the many clones of Sephiroth, okay? So the beware this guy are sick is actually referring to a mistake in the PlayStation version of the game, where you reached a part of the slums where you find like some kind of thingy, like a circular, like a afterburner where someone is living inside of it, where you find like some kind of like a house that is shaped as like a cylinder. And if you talk to Aerith, she comments that she says, this guy are sick. Of course, she was supposed to say this guy is sick, meaning that someone inside of this house is sick, right? So because of the English, you know, translation mistake, it ended up becoming this guy are sick, right? So when I was about to do this Easter egg, I was like, what if I put there the Sephiroth clones, which by the way, he actually appears in this scene when you go to the kids' hideout and they ask Cloud to help them. The guy right here, he actually shows up right here, so it just makes a lot of sense that he's here, right? But I was like, what if I put it right here and I put a sign that says beware this guy are sick, right? Because if you think about it, he is a Sephiroth clone, so he is sick, you know, because they are failed clones of Sephiroth, you know. So, and what made it work so perfectly is also the fact that given that he is like part of Sephiroth, that he's a clone, you could even say that he's like multiple people because he's a clone, right? He's not just an entity, but he's part of many entities. So these guys are sick in a way makes more sense because he's not just an individual, but he's like a clone of Sephiroth, or multiple clones. So like I said, this is very like contrived and extremely like cryptic, but it just makes me giggle inside. So I want to share with you guys because everything came together. I was like, oh my god, yes, I want to put it there, you know. So some people just see this and they're like, oh, there's a guy that he's sleeping, you know, and whatever. But yeah, it's actually made on purpose. And also when Cloud says no regrets right here, it is also a reference to mistakes in people writing stuff, because no regrets is basically like a meme about people tattooing stuff on their body that says no regrets. And there's actually memes and pictures of people on the internet getting tattooed, no regrets on their sleeves or variations of that. So I don't know. Like I said, this is something really obscure and silly, but this kind of stuff I just love when everything comes together. Alright, so now I want to talk about the voice acting. Doing the voice acting was kind of challenging because my studio is still under reconstruction because I had a very bad accident where I had a leak in my basement. So I'm currently recording by sticking my face inside of my wardrobe. I'm gonna show a picture now. It was pretty obnoxious to record. But what I want to talk more specifically is how I studied each character in this animation to make sure they were as similar to the one in the game. So a lot of work went into studying the quirks and musicality and kind of voice inflections and delivery of each one of the characters, because each one of them has something specific about them that makes them more recognizable in a way. So by studying the way that they speak inside of the game, I took note of these things, you know, so to make sure to give the voice actor some kind of guidance, okay? Even the dialogues themselves, you know, I tailored the dialogues so that everything that they were saying in the parody was possibly something similar to what they were saying also in the game, so that people that watched the parody felt more like, oh, this is something that Tifa would say, you know? And by making the dialogues at times, of course not always, but at times similar, I could basically kind of tell the voice actors to replicate the same cadence, so that people can really believe, you know, oh, this sounds so similar to the game, you know. So there was a lot of studying to direct, you know, the voice actors. So I want to give you a couple of examples. For instance, when Tifa here says,
"I'm really glad to have you back, Cloud. Really glad."
Like, she could say, "I'm really glad to have you back, Cloud. Really glad." But it was important to really drive home that she has a more motherly voice and that he's kind of breathy. So instead of like, "I'm really glad to have you back, Cloud," she was like, "I'm really glad to have you back, Cloud." She really had to give the sense of warmth to her voice, just like in the game. So stuff like that was important to try to nail, honestly. And another example could be when Aerith here...
"Just leave us alone. We don't want any trouble."
So here she says, "Just leave us alone. We don't want any trouble." Okay? So she could have said, "Just leave us alone. We don't want any trouble," you know, but in the actual game, the original voice actress usually delivered that line with this kind of like musicality to it, you know? And so we try to really focus on these aspects and make this sound as similar to the game, okay? This was the idea. On my part, when it came to do Cloud was kind of like, of course, you know, as an Italian, it was complicated for me to do right, but Cloud is kind of monotone, you know. So for example, like especially in the beginning of the animation, he needs to be final in everything that he says. So the study behind him was to make it very final in each line that he says. So for example, when he says these typical one-liners like "whatever" or "not interested," you know, it was important to insert these recognizable phrases to make it more believable. Now, I want to stress something though, that I am a little bit of a fanatic when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I try to give people a lot of like pointers and like, okay, we should do this and that. But honestly, most of the voice actors in their demos that they sent to me, they were already perfect. Like, this is just me being fanatic and absolutely, you know, overly exaggeratingly obsessed with stuff. But all the voice actors in this new animation, they were so talented. They just nailed it like right off the bat. So I was like absolutely floored, and I want to thank them really, because if it wasn't for them, this parody would not be as good, honestly. So yeah, I wanted to also now finish off by talking about some more things about the voice acting that is really funny to me. So of course, the voice actor for Barrett, the legendary SSJ9K, he's actually a pretty famous YouTuber. I'm so happy that he was glad to be part of this. And one of the scenes that are really fun in this parody is when he goes off, just fucking yells at Wedge right here.
I said, stay your ass dead.
So here, basically, I told him to say, stay your ass dead. You know, that was my contribution, like, say, stay your ass dead. But then he decided to just do it like an ad-lib, and he went crazy, like going with like a freestyle. So after stay your ass dead, this is all stuff that he created. This is all of his doing. And it was so hilarious that I actually decided to create this scene just because of this freestyle that he came up with. So, my god, like, I'm so grateful for this. And I want to give you actually a little bit of a secret. The recording didn't finish there. There was more, actually. Check it out.
Bruh, out in the street, they call it murder!
Like, this dude is hilarious. Like, I swear to God, guys, please check out this channel, because like there's some of his videos I must have watched them like, I don't know, 30 times, like over and over. They're so funny, and he just has this talent to come up with these ideas. Like, he's such a genius. So of course I didn't keep all of this because the scene would have been too long, so you know, sometimes I need to kind of cut stuff.
God damn! God damn! God damn! God damn! God damn! God damn!
Another example of something that I had to cut out was the voice actor called Chandler here, who did the voice for Chadley, right here.
Oh my. I must recalibrate the simulator so I can harvest even more corpses.
So this scene here actually had more. I actually cut out a line. I can show it to you. The line was actually longer, and this is because his voice for Chadley was so close to the original that I was like, oh my god, he's so good, like so similar. I need to use him as much as I can. And this was his entire line. Actually, I had to cut it.
Oh my. This result was quite unexpected. I must recalibrate the simulator so I can harvest even more corpses.
So as you can see, I had to cut the line and make it just, oh my.
Oh my.
I must recalibrate because I wanted the scene to be more snappy, to have the punchline a little bit more kind of going forward and not drag too much. So I felt bad that I needed to cut it out, but because it was so good, right? But ultimately I had to. But I just want to point it out how good this guy did an impression of Chadley. He really did an amazing job, honestly. Just like all the others, honestly. Like, I can even choose here. Everybody did an amazing job, honestly. I just want to point out some of these extra stuff, you know, that I left out. And one last was the Adam, who did the voice for the new newscast here, right here.
Breaking news. Our invincible leader supreme, President Shinra, has single-handedly killed the Avalanche member Barrett Wallace during the insurrection at the Shinra
So this was
building.
all, you know, stuff that I wrote. But he added just a little bit of a freestyle, like an ad-lib, right here.
Huh?
So when he talks about Jesse and Biggs, in the original writing, I simply wrote, it seems that 2 more terrorist members of Avalanche also died in the accident, right? But instead, he decided to add
Jesse Raspberry and Biggs, just Biggs.
and Jesse Raspberry and Biggs, just Biggs, because, you know, Biggs doesn't have the surname. So this is actually something that he decided to add, and I'm so glad because it works way better, you know, like it's an additional joke to it that makes it more funny. And I actually wanted to share with you guys his other takes right here.
Seems that 2 more terrorist members of Avalanche, Jesse Raspberry and Biggs, no last name given, have also died in the plane accident.
This is one.
It seems that two more terrorist members of Avalanche, Jesse Raspberry and Biggs something, have also died in the plate accident.
I was actually really I conflicted of what I wanted to use of these takes because they're all so funny.
What a bunch of dumbasses, am I right?
And again, I just noted these examples because I wanted to show you guys these extra lines, but absolutely everybody killed it, and I am so grateful, honestly. One last challenge about this parody is that some of the characters, they were quite difficult to reproduce, you know, find voice actors that could do it exactly. So for example, the scene here with Wedge has a very kind of particular voice to it because it's the voice actor from one of the guys from Breaking Bad, and his voice is so difficult to replicate that I ended up basically scanning the whole remake and finding lines that I could basically tailor and work with. It was really complicated, but I was able to find some of his dialogues, like for example this one.
If you need someone to step up, I'm your man.
This is actually from the game, right? So I used a line from the game and I tried to make the other characters say something that made sense in that context, right?
I'm not sure any of us are doing enough damage.
And Barrett, you know, saying,
Shut up and stay your ass dead!
And then I was able to even further find another response to that, like this.
Hang on, guys. Help is coming.
See? So again, like it was complicated, lots of scouting around inside of the script to find that part in the game that I could work with. But not only Wedge, there's a couple other characters that I used, the one from the original game, and yeah, it worked out in the end. I'm pretty happy. So to conclude, I wanted to say that some people among thousands and thousands of comments, maybe 2 people, 3 people, they asked me, so did you like the game or not? I wanted to say that yes, of course I loved this game. The thing is that nobody in the right mind would dedicate months of creating an animation of something they don't like. Of course I loved it. Even parts of the remake that were a little bit, you know, that I made fun of, maybe I found them a little bit annoying, let's say. Replaying it then after in hard mode, I enjoyed them more. So really, overall, this video game to me is so important to me. I still cannot believe it exists, honestly. This remake is like a miracle, basically. So I'm really excited for the DLC that is gonna come out. I'm kind of sad that it's gonna be on the PS5 and there's no PS5s to buy. So that kind of bothers me, honestly. But I am so excited for part 2. You guys have no idea. So I'm just, you know, I'm a little bit scared of the direction this is gonna take, but overall I put faith in the developers because they really nailed this remake. And you guys know that I don't give a shit about, you know, giving praise, because, you know, in my parodies I bash stuff that I don't like. I don't give a fuck, you know. I'm not sponsored by anyone, so I can say whatever I want, you know. But I'm just so excited for part 2. I cannot wait. And you know, of course, as always, I'm cautious about, you know, I'm not thinking it's gonna be perfect. But this part 1 of the remake was incredible. It really left something in me, like it was really something precious that I will never forget. So that's why I made this parody, because yes, of course I make jokes about stuff that I maybe didn't like, but no one would make an animation of something that they don't like. If you do something like this, I can assure you that it's because I love deeply the material that it comes from. And both, you know, the original and the remake, they're works made with love, you know, and that's what is important to me, and so that's why I made this animation. Alright guys, that's it. One last thing is that I am working currently on a short parody for Dark Souls 1, a little parody that I'm working on, so I hope you're excited for that. I'm gonna share some more details soon. And I hope you enjoyed this little, well, long actually, behind the scene for the Final Fantasy VII Remake parody. And I'll see you around. Bye bye.